right. All righty then. We are live. Oh man. What is up? If there's anybody in the chat, give me a quick little hello. Let me know if you can hear me. I don't fully understand YouTube. It says I have 1 view and 0 concurrent viewers. I think that means somebody stopped by for a quick second and then bounced. We'll just give it a few minutes. See, now I have 2 views and still 0 concurrent viewers, so I don't know what that means. If you're there in the chat, can you let me know if you can hear me okay? OBS is telling me that everything is fine, but you can't always trust OBS. My chat rate just dropped from 1 to 0. Does that mean that my one comment I left disappeared? These YouTube stats don't make a ton of sense to me.
Can you tell the class?
All right. Well, I think I'm going to go ahead and just get started for the folks that watch this later. I don't expect really to get maybe any live viewers today because I am switching to my new channel. So my previous channel had about 400 subscribers and was usually good for some discussion during live videos and whatnot. But this brand new channel, you know, it has like 100 subscribers. It's not really technically brand new. It's existed for a long time. I'm kind of reviving it, but I just wanted to switch to a channel that was just my name versus the you know, the name world's worst web developer. I didn't hate that. I thought it was kind of fun, clever name. It was kind of inspired by my favorite video game streamer called Ragtag, who calls himself the greatest gutter tier gamer because he's not as skilled in video games as some of the other streamers is, but he's just really fun to watch. So that's kind of where I was going with that channel. But I've just decided to move away from that and move to a channel that's just my name. Um, it's simpler. I also want to be able to talk about more things that maybe aren't strictly web development related, you know? So um, that's what we're doing. So we are moving to this channel. If you're watching this, you know, later, please consider subscribing because the old channel is dead. I'm not going to be posting videos to that channel anymore. I will be abandoning that channel, and this is the new channel. So please consider subscribing to this new channel. Today we're going to be talking about EmDash. EmDash is a new CMS content management system. it's like most new web development tools, uh, people are calling it the WordPress killer. The people who created it are not calling it that, but other people are calling it that so that they can criticize all the reasons why it's not the WordPress killer, even though no one's claiming that it is a WordPress killer. So EmDash is the latest WordPress killer. It's here to completely destroy and obliterate all things WordPress. So watch out. The creators did call it a successor to WordPress. So I can almost, that's probably about the closest anyone's come to actually calling their product a WordPress killer, because successor sort of implies that, you know, out with the old and with the new, right? But they call themselves a spiritual successor. I think that was just them trying to kind of explain that, you know, EmDash is heavily inspired by WordPress, but this is what they believe a content management system should look like in the year 2026. It's definitely not a copy of WordPress. It's not even the same technology. WordPress, of course, is built on PHP. EmDash is not. EmDash is JavaScript, TypeScript, and it uses Astro for the front end. So completely different, environment from WordPress. And the more I've been getting into EmDash, the more I am seeing that it is different from WordPress, not only in technology, not just the fact that it's not built on PHP, but it's also just it requires a completely different approach and way of thinking when it comes to building a website. And I'm actually not sure I like it. I'm still trying to work out, how much of these roadblocks are things that EmDash needs to improve on, and how much of it is just me needing to change the way that I think about building a website. Because I've been using WordPress for so long, it's basically all I know. It's very hard to do something for like 20 years or however long I've been using WordPress and then jump into something completely new. So, and that's what I've been doing ever since they launched. I actually literally migrated one of my websites to EmDash on the day they launched it, April 1st. Just for funsies. It wasn't that crazy of a migration because that site was already actually built with Astro. It was just using Sanity as the CMS, so I don't think it was that difficult for my AI bot to convert that Astro Sanity site into an Astro EmDash site. But I did it. And I learned a little bit, I think, during that process, but then later I migrated a website from WordPress to EmDash, and that was more. I don't know. I learned more, I think, about that, and I found more reasons to kind of scratch my head and go, is this really ready for primetime use? Um, so yeah, I want to talk. Well, first, I'll just kind of walk you through the dashboard of EmDash and kind of see what it looks like, what a human would see. Obviously their intention is that you would be mostly using AI to build your website. This whole thing was built as like an AI first platform. So there's a built-in MCP you can go enable, and then you just tell your AI about what you want, and it does it. That's sort of the idea. But it does have an actual dashboard for human beings to go look at and do things like, create a new blog post or whatever. So we will take a look at that. My first criticism of EmDash that I'm going to put out into the universe here is that they don't have a landing page. And maybe that's a silly thing, but like there's no landing page for EmDash. If you want to learn about EmDash, what do? You go look at their GitHub, I guess. I guess that's a strategy. You can do that. You can use your GitHub as your landing page, I suppose. I by pure chance I found this page today, docs.em-cms.com. Didn't know that existed. This might have helped in some of the stuff I've been doing over the past, geez, I guess it's been 12 days already since they launched, but I just found this. But if you go to em-cms.com, it just immediately fires up a playground, which is like, it's annoying to me. I want to see a landing page where I can learn about it. Show me links. Say, hey, if you want the GitHub, go here. If you want the docs, go here. If you want to spin up a playground, go here. I don't know. It's a minor thing, I think. Maybe everyone is like telling me to shut up and move on about it, but I just wish they would give me a landing page. Um, Here's their docs page. Here is their GitHub. Um, Spinning up a new website on your local machine is very easy. You just npm create EmDash latest. Easy peasy. I don't know of any web hosts that have, made this like a one-click process. One click they call it. You ever notice they used to brag about, you know, WordPress one-click install? It was never one click, bro. It was a lot of clicks, okay? It just was. Um, Anyways, I don't know of any hosts that have done that with EmDash yet, but it's not difficult. It's literally just an npm command and you got a site. So you can go to any host that, where you can host a Node.js app and fire it up. Now, there's going to be, and this is one of the things that people are talking about a lot. Um, there's basically two ways to uh, run an EmDash website, and I don't fully understand them. I tried to have my AI explain it to me, but there's like a traditional Node.js app, which you can do anywhere, any host that has Node.js, you can do that. But then there's also like the Cloudflare workers approach, which is obviously something that you can only do if you host with Cloudflare. And that comes with certain benefits, namely plugin sandboxing, which just makes for a much more secure ecosystem. So it's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of, I'm just going to say frustrating. I don't know if that's the right word. Disappointing, maybe, that in order to get that security benefit of the plugin sandboxing, you have to host with Cloudflare. On the other hand, though, it's not even an option with WordPress. There is no super secure plugin sandboxing option no matter where you host. If you install a third-party plugin from some shady source, or like what I just saw, somebody bought 30 plugins from someone, a perfectly legitimate developer, built this business up to 30 plugins. Somebody else bought the business from that guy and on day one injected some shady nonsense into all the plugins. So you never know. You might get a plugin from somebody who's not shady, but you don't know if, 2 years later that person sells the business to someone who is shady. That's a risk. That's a risk. And so, you can say, well, with EmDash, at least, if you want to host anywhere, then you basically have the same experience as WordPress. But if you host with Cloudflare, then you get this added plugin sandboxing security benefit. So it's one of those things that sounds like a negative at first, but it really it's a positive because you either get the same experience as WordPress if you host anywhere you want, or you get a better, more secure experience if you host with Cloudflare. So, but that's kind of where it's at. Um, Either way, it's like I said, it's pretty easy to spin up a new website. Um, I've said I was going to take you through the dashboard a little bit. So here is the playground that spins up when you go to em-cms.com. It just spins up a playground. And so this is a brand new blank website that I've done nothing to. We can go look at the front end. This is it. This is basically your uh, WordPress 2027 theme or whatever, just the default theme. Um, yeah, and it's just as ugly as every default WordPress theme has ever been. But see, we got all the basics. We got our little logo. We got a navigation menu, a little hero section. I'm assuming this is some sort of blog post. Yeah, this is just one of the blog posts with the tag of opinion. So it's set up as a blog, which is kind of disappointing because that's one of my criticisms of WordPress. Like nobody builds a blog, you know? Like a lot of people have a blog on their website, mostly for SEO purposes, not actually for humans to read it. But some people, you know, it, most websites are not blogs. That's what I'm trying to get at. But WordPress is set up as a blog. When you install WordPress, you get a blog. And I think that's annoying. You have to go create a home page, and then you have to go into settings, and then you have to set that home page as your home page instead of making the home page just a blog page. And to me, that's annoying when you consider that like 99% of websites are not blogs. Maybe when WordPress was first forked from whatever that was, I don't remember what it was, but when WordPress first existed, it was supposed to be a blogging platform. So it made sense back then. But I don't think it makes sense anymore that a WordPress website is a blog. So it's kind of annoying that I fire up an EmDash CMS and it's a freaking blog. But whatever. That's life. So here's a dashboard. Now, it does look similar to WordPress, but this is not a WordPress experience from my experience. None of this has felt WordPressy to me. But it does visually look a little WordPressy at first. We just have, we have a menu on the left and it's kind of dark gray, and then over here is mostly white. So yeah, that looks like WordPress, sure. It's organized a little bit better though. I like that we have the content section. We have a manage section, we have an admin section, and then we used to have a plugin section, and I don't know why that's not showing down here. They might have updated that. Let's look at my website. Is it still... Where did I put my website? Okay. Yeah, they must have updated the dashboard because literally the last time I remember looking at this dashboard, there was a section just like this, manage admin, that was for plugins. So I guess they just moved that into the admin section. Okay. At least they're working on it. That's good news. When they're changing little stuff like that, that means that they're actively working on this project. A lot of people were worried that it was just going to, that it was kind of a joke. They like to launch things on April 1st, apparently. And a lot of people were worried that they weren't going to take it seriously. But I think they are taking it seriously. I watched the WP Product Talk show a few days ago where they had the two guys behind EmDash, and they were talking about how they are actively working on a lot of different things, and they are listening to our feedback, and they are working on this. So they're taking it seriously. This is a real project. This is not just some fly by the night random thing that's going to drop and disappear. They really are working on this. And I can see evidence of that already as they got rid of the plugin section down here. So, but this is it. So you'll notice we have a content section. We have pages and posts and media. That's the default. You can create new content types. So it's similar to WordPress. WordPress calls it custom post types. EmDash just calls it content types. And then in the back end, it's referred to as collections. And so you can create multiple ones. And you can do that here in the dashboard. So we have content types, pages and posts. We could create new content type. There's really not a whole lot that you can do in this dashboard. I've been discovering. The page editor is very basic. This is what you get: title and content. This is very reminiscent of like old school WordPress. If you go back and think about before page builders existed, it was rough, man. Building a website in WordPress was rough because you were very restricted to literally whatever the theme was allowing. And if you wanted to build a website where you could control the layout and whatever, you just had to code it custom from scratch. You had to build your own custom theme. And then page builders came in and made it easier to kind of control the layout and stuff. But this is very reminiscent of like old school WordPress before page builders, before the block editor, where we literally just have a title and a place to put some content. And you can do a little bit of stuff in here. There's no layout options. You know, you can't create like a grid. Is this a code thing? Okay, that's like a code block. In old school WordPress, you had the option to switch from the text editor to like a code editor, and that was about the only way you could like create a layout back then, was to just code it yourself. Oh, what's this? Oh, I don't know. I don't know what that is. Just change the formatting a little bit. So there doesn't appear to be that option here to just throw in HTML code. So with EmDash, basically what you're doing is all the content is here in the dashboard. Not all of it, but a lot of it is here in the dashboard. And then you're building the front end basically from scratch using Astro. So Astro is what we're using for the front end. So there's no, at least not yet, there's no like page builder experience like Elementor or Divi or something with WordPress. That does not yet exist. So if you're going to build a site with EmDash, you would be building your theme, as far as I know, just straight up custom in Astro, and then you'd be using this as your sort of backend CMS, which in theory sounds fine, whatever. That's kind of how WordPress was anyways back in the day. Like you would, if you didn't want to be restricted to the themes, you would just create your own theme, your own custom theme. So not terribly different from old school WordPress in that regard. The problem is, for me, and I've been trying to figure this out, the best way to do some of these things. The problem is that you don't have a ton of control over the content in the back end. So in theory, it sounds fine. Okay, I create the content here in the back end, then I create a template in Astro, and then I hook into the content, you know, pull in the title and drop that in my template, pull in the content, drop that in my template. Just like in WordPress, you would use like get the title, get the content, whatever. The problem is if you want anything other than just a title and some content, right? Because you'll notice there's no other fields here. Now you can add fields similar to WordPress. You can add custom fields to content types, but since you can't add fields to a specific page, then that means that you would have to add whatever custom fields you want. You'd have to add them to all your pages, and that would just really clutter up this interface here, right? So let's say we're building this is the website I used. I dropped a video where I migrated this WordPress website to EmDash. You know, in WordPress, if you're building this website, you would just build this whole page out with whatever builder you're using. You know, I used Etch for this. You could use Elementor, you could use Divi. You build out the whole page, and then you create another page called ACT Prep, and then you build out this whole page, right? And you do all that from within the WordPress dashboard. If we were to do this in EmDash, and if we wanted all the content to be editable inside the builder, you know, you'll notice we have layouts here. So we can't just grab all this content and just drop it into here, because this is just going to be one cascading list of heading blocks, bulleted list, quotes, co-blocks, dividers, etc., images. You can't, we can't use this content to create this 2-column layout here, where we have one column over here for all this text, and a column over here for an image. Come down here, we get this, we got another 2-column thing going on. Here's another 2-column thing. Here's a slider. We can't do any of that with this. We would have to create custom fields for that stuff. So we could create a custom field for, you know, this header. We would want to create, if we're building it properly, we'd want to make this a component, which we'll talk about that as well. But you'd have a field for this data. You'd have a field for this data, for this data, for this data. You'd have a field for this image. And then you would build this template in Astro with HTML, CSS, whatever. And then you would, hook into your data and say, hey, for this image, use this particular image from EmDash, whatever. The problem with that is that we wouldn't be able to have only the ACT prep fields on the ACT prep page and then have only the math and reading enrichment services fields on the math and reading enrichment services page. We would have to add every single one of these fields to the page's content type, which means when you come back in here and you go to pages and you have all your pages in there, every single page is going to have all the custom fields that you added for every single page. Even though that page isn't using most of those fields, they all have to be there. And that to me is that's just clutter. That's absolute clutter. And that's the only option. The only other option is to basically just hard code everything into the Astro template. So you just build all this content out and it's all just hard coded straight into the Astro template. You can't click on it and edit it like you're supposed to be able to do. If we go to their example site, well, this is all dynamic content. So do they have a page? There's an about page. No, they don't have an about page. Oh, they do. But it just spun up a new playground. What are you doing, guys? What if I click this? Okay, there's an about page. You notice if you click on it, if you have edit enabled down here, you click on it. It's supposed to let you, it's supposed to take you into your dashboard and edit it. I don't know why it's not working. I believe my website works. If I click on this, yeah, it takes you into your back end. So that's how, but if you do that with pages, you're gonna come back here into this back end and you're just gonna have this long page of fields, and each page is only going to use like a few of those fields, right? And if you do it the other way where you just hard code everything, then you don't have that benefit you just watched where I could click on this and then go edit it in the back end. You literally have to update the code. You have to go into the Astro template to update everything. So this is one of those things where I'm trying to figure out, like, is it me, or am I missing something, or is this just a limitation? Is it something they plan on addressing? Because I can't seem to figure out how to make this work. So this worked for me because every slide is exactly the same. So I created a content type called slides, and I created 3 slides, and they all have the same fields because they use all these fields. So there's no clutter here. So that worked for this instance because every instance of this content type is using the same fields. But if you have pages and all the pages have different layout, here's a 3-column thingy, here's a 2-column thingy, here's images, videos, whatever. So, and if you're trying to map all that into your content management system so you can manage the content, so maybe it's easy for someone to log in and just update some stuff without having to open a code editor and open an Astro file. It's just it's very difficult, and it's, I don't know. I just don't understand I'm trying to figure out what the expected workflow is there. What are they expecting me to do? If I wanted to build this website in EmDash, what are they expecting me to do? Basically just, I just don't know. If I hard code all of this in an Astro template, what even is the point of EmDash? Why am I even trying to use a content management system? And if they're expecting me to just create all these fields for every single page, I have the home page, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's not a page. 5, 6, 7, 8. I have 8 pages. So I'm supposed to add all the content fields for 8 pages to the content type of page so that every time I go in and create a new page, I have to scroll through dozens of fields to find the fields I want for this page? Come on. There's got to be a better way. I I must be missing something. I don't know what's going on. Um, ugh. If you have experience with EmDash, please jump in the comments or just reach out to me on Twitter. Like, tell me what I'm missing. What am I doing wrong here? When I was moving this website over to EmDash, by the way, I'm not doing that for real. That was just for content, just to play around with it. This site is still WordPress and will remain on WordPress. I only migrated it locally just as a learning experience. But when I was doing that, of course, when I built this in Etch, this is a component. This is reused on almost every page. It's just a different image and different text, but it's the same thing. That's not a page. So obviously, this is a clear use case for a component. So I was talking to my AI bot. I was like, hey, how do we create a component in EmDash? I'd like it to be, obviously we could just create a component in Astro, but I want it to be wired into the CMS so that ideally I create a new page. First thing I do is I add this component to the top of the page, like in here. I would come here, add new, and then add a component. And then there would be an option for typing in a heading and a subheading and then choosing an image. And then it plops this component down on the page with that information. And then I got down here, this gray thing right here, proven results. This is reused on the website several times. It's exactly the same on every page, so it doesn't even need editable content really. Like, it doesn't need to be editable on each instance, but I still would like for this to be an actual component with a single source of truth, so that if I needed to come in here, maybe this changes. Maybe after a couple years, this is actually like 92%. So I need to go in and update this. And I would like to just update it once and have it update everywhere the component is used, right? That's proper web development. But there's no way to do that with EmDash. No good way. We had a hacky solution. I don't know how he pulled it off, but he had a hacky solution where he was able to create a component and I could edit this. I could edit all the text, but there was no way to edit the images. So the images were just hard coded into the Astro template. So if I needed to change an image, I would have to go into the Astro template to do that. And that's frustrating because that's not what a CMS is. A CMS is a content management system. I'm supposed to be able to manage this content from the dashboard, not have to go in and hard code everything. So that's annoying. And again, maybe I'm just missing something. At first I thought this sections, the way they talk about sections, reusable content blocks you can insert into any content, I thought, oh, there it is. There's my component. But no, because you can't even add fields, custom fields to a section. So you literally just have the title and then this content, which it calls it a portable content block or whatever. That's it. So I honestly don't even know what the point of a section is. It's not like a usable thing that I could actually, that's useful. And I guess unless I need to just drop some random text. And the thing about this is it's also, it doesn't work as a component. It's not like, so if I add this newsletter sign up, if I add this to 5 different places on my website, and then I come in here and I edit this, and I change the text here, it doesn't update anywhere. It's basically what it is just a copy and paste type thing. So if I come in here and I change this, it only affects any new instances where I drop in this section. It doesn't update all the places on the website where I've already added this section. So this is just an incredibly unuseful feature. I don't understand why this exists. I'm hoping that it's something that is just sort of a proof of concept, and they're planning on greatly expanding this because it could be very powerful. If this was what I thought it was, if this is what how I would create a reusable component with a single source of truth, that would be pretty great. That'd be a good feature, but it's not. There's widgets, which is funny to me. Um, so that's one way that you could build out your layouts and your theme is by adding widget areas. And then we can add, so you can see this theme has a footer widget area and a sidebar widget area. And then just like WordPress, you can drag. So I kind of think that's funny because I feel like we've pretty much gotten away from widgets in WordPress, right? That's like old school WordPress, man. Um, and so here we are using widgets again. So that's kind of weird to me. Um, what else do I want to talk about? So I mentioned this is supposed to be like an AI first type platform. And so one of the things they do is when you install this, let's see if I can find my project folder here. You get a skill file, two skill files that I thought were supposed to be the same, but this is 3 kilobytes, this is 1. Let's just open them up, see what they are. So here's the agents.md file, and then let's close this other stuff. And then let's also open this other one, Claude. I thought they were the same. Okay. Claude is, oh, did I, let's not save. Huh. I don't know why it's empty. But anyways, so I was excited at first that it came with a skill because I was like, oh, this is going to teach my AI how to use it. But this is it. This is the entire skill. Okay. Um, there's not a lot in here. It's a little bit. So it tells you how to start the server. Okay, cool. A little bit of a purpose for some of the files in there. Agent skills are in .agent/skills, which is that the folder inside this project? Oh, okay. I just had an epiphany live. This is where the actual skills are. Okay. See, if I had actually read this skill closer, I wouldn't have been complaining about it. So this skill tells the bot where all the other skills are. That makes a lot more sense. Okay. So we got, this does not come with the project. This is something my AI bot created. I tried my hand at creating a plugin, and I told it to add a skill. And so this must be what my AI agent created, but these 3 came with it. So here's a skill about the CLI. Here's a skill about how to create plugins and how to just build with EmDash. Let's take a look at this skill. Stop it. Yeah, that's better. Okay. So remove that from my list of criticisms. I was criticizing it for how lame its skill was until I realized that that skill was just referencing other more detailed skills. So very cool. So also worth noting, if you are going to create your own skills for your own project, you can load it into this .agents folder, since this skill is telling your agent to go look in there for some skills. So maybe if you want to add like a Astro specific skill, maybe you have a skill that you like to use for building with Astro, you could drop that in there. Anything you want to put in there that's specific to this particular project, You could drop that in there, like a design framework. You could drop that in that folder. Okay, so that's pretty cool. I like this. What else? I told my AI bot to come up with a list of talking points for this video based on our previous conversations, and I told it to save it to my Parchment account. What does Carl, I named him Carl. What does Carl think I should talk about? The custom fields problem. Yeah, we talked about that. It is easy to create custom fields. At least it was easy for Carl to do it. I don't know how you would do it in the dashboard, now that I think about it. Content types. You can create a new content type. But there's no option in the dashboard for creating custom fields. That is interesting. So that is apparently apparently something that you can only do with AI. I mean, obviously you can do whatever you want if you understand the code, you know, EmDash's code. You can customize it however you want, but yeah, there's no dashboard way of creating custom fields. Interesting. I definitely know you can do it because I've told my AI bot to do it and it did it. So like it created this content type slides and then it created these custom fields for it. So it can be done, just not in the dashboard. Interesting. I'm assuming they're going to change that, right? Like they got to give us the ability to do some of this stuff in the dashboard. I get the AI first, but do they really want it to be basically AI only? Like, are they trying to make it so that you have to have AI in order to do anything? Because that could be, you know, I could see myself getting used to that, but I know there's going to be a lot of people who are going to really push back on that. I'm already kind of pushing back on it. Um, so yeah, that's interesting. What else was he talking about? Some of your content ends up in code. Yeah, that's what I was talking about before. Like you have to choose between cluttering up your pages with a bunch of custom fields that most pages aren't using, or just hard coding a bunch of your data, you know, onto the Astro template to keep your pages in the dashboard uncluttered. Which maybe that's fine. Again, maybe this is just me needing to change how I approach this. I'm used to literally every piece of content being manageable by the CMS, whether it's Elementor or just a block editor or Divi, whatever. You log into the WordPress dashboard, there is 100% of your content. You can manage it, change it, whatever. Maybe I need to just get away from that thinking and I need to approach it and I need to look at this website and I go, okay, what content here is probably never going to change? Like what content is my client never going to need to log in and update? And whatever that is, maybe just gets hard coded into the Astro template. And then I only create custom fields in the CMS for things that I feel like a client might need to log in and update. I don't know. Maybe that's just how I need to approach it. I don't like it. And honestly, as much as I've been trolling people and talking about how WordPress is dead, if this is how it has to be done, I don't know. I don't think I like it. I think this would keep me in the WordPress ecosystem a little bit longer, probably. But again, the other side of that coin is the AI is supposed to be doing everything for you anyways, so maybe it's a moot point, you know? If the customer wants to change this text and it's hard coded into the Astro template, who cares? You just tell the AI, hey, go to the testimonials page and change the heading from this to this, and it does it for you. You don't need the ability to do that in the CMS. You know, poking around a CMS dashboard, maybe that's just 2025 thinking, and I need to jump into 2026 thinking where I'm just telling the AI to do everything for me. I don't know. No built-in reusable components. Yeah, that's frustrating to me. Just as a guy who's coming from, pre-AI, where I'm the human controlling everything. So it makes a lot of sense for me to be creating components because it makes it easier to maintain the website. If you're reusing a component 10 times throughout your website, it's very, very annoying as a human being to go in. If you need to update that component, it's annoying to have to go update it 10 different times, right? So that's why you make it a component so you can update it once and it updates everywhere. But does the AI care? It's not really annoying for the AI to go in and update the component 10 different times. It's an AI bot. It doesn't care. So, I'm still coming from that perspective of how do I make this as easy as possible for a human to maintain? And maybe that's just old school thinking. Maybe it doesn't matter if it's easy for a human to maintain anymore. Who is EmDash actually for? Carl believes it's for developers who want a clean, type-safe, Astro-native CMS without the WordPress overhead. It is not for non-technical site owners. Yeah, well, neither is WordPress, really. Who want dashboard control over everything. Yeah. That does seem accurate to me. You don't get to have dashboard control over everything with EmDash. It's a lot of it is just hard-coded Astro stuff. Right now. Again, this is 12 days old, so for all I know, they've already thought about all these things and they have a plan and whatever. It's going to get a lot better. I will definitely be following this project very closely to see how it grows and to see how much of this stuff is valid complaints from me and how much of it is just I just need to think about things differently. It'll be very interesting to see what this project is like 6 months from now, see how much it's changed. Yeah. Plugin marketplace. I don't think I have access to that because I'm not hosting on Cloudflare. Does their playground have access to it? Doesn't seem like their playground has access to it either, which is kind of funny. I remember when I installed this locally and I used the Cloudflare option, I had a plugin marketplace option. This server still live? Here's my this is the site that I migrated from WordPress to EmDash. Yeah, see, here's the plugin section. Remember earlier in the video I mentioned there's a plugin section? And here's the marketplace. All right, there's 3 plugins so far. I don't know what @proto means. I don't know what audit log means. I don't know what webhook notifier means. Cool, 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 cool. No detailed description. Who knows if this data is actually accurate? Has permissions read your content, make network requests to any host. Okay. So this is part of the security. Plugins don't just have full permissions like they do on WordPress. They have very specific permissions, and you can see what those permissions are. So all this can do is read your content. So nobody can like try to use this plugin to do nefarious things. They could potentially use it to read your content, I suppose, but you could also just go look at their website. But you don't get these you don't get the marketplace, you don't get the plugin sandboxing if you aren't hosting with Cloudflare. So that's why if you go here, you don't see the marketplace option. You could still like sideload your own plugins, but you don't get that marketplace. So yeah, I think that's about all I wanted to talk about. Honestly, I mostly wanted to do this live because I'm tired of editing videos. But I was kind of maybe hoping to get some conversation going. Hopefully, as this new channel grows, um, and I get some people jumping in like I did on the old channel, we can have some more of a conversation. But this was mostly just me talking into the void, and hopefully we can get the comment section going on this because I do want to hear. I want to hear y'all's thoughts. Hopefully, there's some people out there who are using EmDash, and maybe you had a little bit different experience than me. Maybe you figured some stuff out that I haven't figured out, and you can enlighten me um, on some of the complaints that I had. That would be fantastic. Definitely, like I said, I'm very interested in this project. I want to learn more about it. So if you know something that I don't, please don't hesitate to let me know. Um, and if you built a website with EmDash and it's live, drop that in the comments too. Let us look at it. Here's mine. This is a very simple website. It was originally built on WordPress a long time ago. Then I moved it to Astro Sanity like a month or two ago. And now I've moved it to EmDash. It's a very simple website with it's just content and a contact form. But if maybe some of y'all out there are building something a little more complex, I'd love to see it. I'd love to see what you're doing with EmDash. And maybe you could even share a little bit of the like what went into building the website, especially if it's, if you manage to figure out a non-hacky way to create a component. I would love to see that. I would love to see how you pulled that off in the dashboard and in Astro. But yeah. All right, I think that's it. I'm gonna close down this live stream. Please consider subscribing to this new channel if you're subscribed to the old channel, because like I said, I am abandoning that old channel. No more videos are going to that channel. This is the new channel from now on. So please consider jumping ship to this new ship. All right, I'll see you guys later.